Welcome to On My Way to Wealth, the podcast where busy Gen Xers can learn financial tips as they navigate life on their way to wealth. And now, please join your host, Luis Rosa.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of On My Way to Wealth. My name is Luis, and I'm your host. Happy 2023. I hope you and your families are happy, safe, healthy, and you had a great holiday season. New year, new possibilities, new opportunities. I want to talk to you about some of the things that can help you so that you can set yourself up for financial success, not only in 2023, but beyond. And there's some basic, simple steps that I do myself that I want to share with you because time is on your side, right? So if you take advantage of the fact that it's the beginning of the year, you may be able to make certain things a lot more easier on yourself so that you don't have to play catch up later. Now, a lot of people in the new year do New Year's resolutions. Most of the time when I see people do resolutions, they're usually around their health. I see people that say, hey, I'm going to do dry January, for example. So they're going to not consume any alcoholic beverages during January. Some people decide to go on a diet. Some people go to the gym and so on. Now, I want to apply that same concept to looking at your financial fitness as well, not only your physical fitness, because a lot of the times there are things that we can do for our financial fitness, similar to what we do for our physical fitness, that we can automate and actually create a better situation for ourselves in the future without necessarily feeling like we're sacrificing. I think one of the major reasons why some people hate the word budget or even looking at their finances is because it sounds restrictive. The word budget has a negative connotation similar to the word diet. Nobody wants to really diet, right? But I find that, like diets, a lot of things that work for the long term is when you make something that provides you balance, the ability to do things consistently, habitually, but not necessarily restricting yourself so that you still leave room to enjoy yourself and you don't feel like you're doing something, that maybe has a positive outcome, but you're miserable while you're doing it. So the whole key is creating this balance. And these are some of the things that you can apply to your personal finances. So a lot of us spend a lot of time planning things in the future, like our vacations, planning even events, right? Going out on a weekend or meeting up with friends, maybe a date night. And I think that we can put similar effort to planning our finances, because if we don't, then we're not going to really achieve our goals. We're going to just be wandering, kind of like a rudderless ship, as Napoleon Hill says in his book, Think and Grow Rich. You want to have a definite goal that you're going after, because then you can measure it and see if the actions that you're taking are taking you closer or away from it. And then you can change course accordingly. And a lot of the times, in order to reach those goals, you don't necessarily have to make a huge drastic change. But if you do a small enough change over a long period of time, you're going to see massive results. I was recently reading a book by James Clear called Atomic Habits. And he talks about just how to build habits. And I think it's just a great opportunity, especially now that it's a new year, to read that book. I'm actually going to put a link to it in the show notes. Because it shows you how to do a lot of the things that, are going to benefit you in the long run. And you don't necessarily have to put a lot of effort into them. You just have to be smart about them. So let's talk about some budgeting concepts that I use. So the budget that I currently use for myself is what they call like a zero-sum budget. And ultimately, the point of it is to give yourself a system where every single dollar has a destination. You're giving each dollar a purpose. So that way you're not just aimlessly wandering, like, where does my money go? A lot of the times when I sit with my clients, that's when they first become clients, it's like, hey, like, we have no idea where our money goes. Like, we're making good money, but I just don't know where it's going, right? That's very common. So the word budget doesn't necessarily need to be restrictive. If you think about it, businesses have to budget. I mean, imagine that you ran a business and you didn't allocate money for rent and marketing expenses and employees and stuff. You're going to fail, right? Imagine governments did the same thing. I mean, nonprofits, all these entities are all run on a budget. that means that us as individuals and families should also apply the same exact principles. And like I said, it doesn't need to be restricted. To give you an example, my wife and I are taking dance lessons every week. That's in our budget, right? It's very fun. I don't feel restricted. Every week we go and we have an hour lesson with a private instructor. It's in our budget. And the reason for it is because then you get to make choices. Because we have, for now, right, we have limited resources, right? We only have X amount of money that comes in. So we have to be very strategic about where do those dollars get allocated towards. So if your priority is travel, or your priority is dancing, or taking care of yourself, like getting a massage every month, or whatever it is, you should put those things in your actual budget. You know, there's a book that talks about like the latte effect, I think it's called, that where it was talking about like if you save money that you would have spent on coffee, and it shows you what that money would grow to over time. And the math is correct. But I think where the book fails is that, you know, that's well and good, but you can apply that concept to everything, right? I mean, you can starve yourself and save the money you would have saved, right? And not eat as much. But that's not the point. The point is you want to leave enough room to still enjoy yourself. So if you want to drink a latte every day, it's absolutely fine. Just put it in the budget, right? Now, also make sure that the same way that you're budgeting for these fun things, that you're also budgeting for your future self. Things like contributing to your 401k, contributing to a Roth IRA, and so on. And this is why it's so important to talk about it now in the new year, because you can start automating things. And because you have all year, you might be able to spread them out to the point where it doesn't really feel like much. Let me give you one example. You may have done some holiday shopping recently, and that's fresh in your memory. You could probably easily figure out how much you spent. But let's just say, for the sake of simplicity, that you spend $1,200 a year between holidays and gifts throughout the year. That's $100 a month. If you get paid every, let's say biweekly, twice a month, you can break it down to $50 a paycheck, right? And you're at the beginning of the month. So if you do $50 a paycheck, it probably won't feel that bad. And by the time the holidays come, you'll have the money that you need, right? As opposed to trying to figure it out in November, like, oh my God, Christmas or whatever holiday you celebrate is here. Now I got to come up with all this money, right? So it's a lot easier if you break it down into smaller amounts throughout the year, so that you can just make it easier on yourself and achieve your goal and not have to worry about playing catch up later. And you can apply that to any other goal that's not necessarily a recurring bill, but it's things that you spend money on every single year, like vacations. Do the same thing. You know, if you spend $3,600 a year on vacations, for example, you know, $300 a month, then you know you have to put $150 per paycheck into this vacation fund. So when the vacation comes, you have the money. Now, you may not necessarily take a vacation at the end of the year. So starting to put money away today may not have the same effect, because you may not have accumulated all of the money yet by the time you take the vacation in the summer, for example. But you can use other resources that you have, like your tax refund, to help front load some of these goals. So if you have a goal like a vacation that maybe you take it in the summer and you can't break the amount into equal amounts for the whole year, then you can maybe use something like a bonus you recently received last year or a tax refund to help you front load those things. So that's one opportunity. Another opportunity is eliminating things. And that doesn't mean, again, going back to not feeling restricted. I'm talking things like subscriptions that you're not using. You know, a lot of us automate things that are bills very easily, right? The Netflix, streaming services, and so on. Take a look. You know, if you didn't do it at the end of the year, take a look now and see, when was the last time I used XYZ subscription? You know, does it make sense to keep it? Let me pause it. You don't have to get rid of it. Maybe pause it for 3 months. A lot of the services offer that option. And you may not even miss it. And at the end of the period, you may just decide to cancel it altogether. So it's about repurposing your resources. It's not necessarily about feeling like you have lack. And notice, I'm not even talking about increasing your revenue. I'm talking about finding opportunities using your current resources. So eliminating things that you're currently not using. Subscriptions come to mind. It's one of the most often ones that I see where people are technically just wasting money because they may have an automatic charge every month for something that they're not using. So take a look at all your numbers, pull out the last 2 to 3 months bank statements and credit card statements, see what's recurring and see if you're actually using it. And maybe there's an opportunity for you to cancel and maybe start it up either with a new provider, or if you are in a relationship, maybe you can cancel something that your significant other can sign up for in their name if you had it in yours. And because a lot of the things I've noticed, like cell phone providers, for example, they're very notorious for providing a much better deal to a new customer than they do to their old ones. So when you either call and say, hey, I'm leaving, they might offer you a better deal, or you may just leave and then sign up with a different provider, or have your spouse or a significant other sign up for it. So that could be another way to just kind of just repurpose some of the existing resources that you have. The second thing that I find very helpful is to automate. So the same way that you automate your subscriptions, you want to automate your savings. So let me give you an example. One opportunity right now is to contribute to a Roth IRA. If you qualify under the income guidelines that the IRS sets, for the year 2023, you can contribute up to $6,500 per year to a Roth IRA or a traditional IRA. And if age 50 or older, you could do an additional $1,000 contribution. They call it a catch-up contribution. So you end up with $7,500. But let's say you're under 50 and you want to max out your Roth IRA for the year. It's $6,500. Now, maybe you can use a trick if you want to use even numbers. Let's say you spread it over 10 months from January through October. That's $650 a month times 10 will get you there, $6,500 to max it out. That means if you get paid twice a month, for example, it's $325 a paycheck. Now, what do you do with the months of November and December? That $650 that you're not going to send to your Roth anymore, boom, there's $1,300 right there. And voila, maybe that's the money you needed to spend on your holiday shopping and so on, right? So there are different little tricks that you can use, but the key is if you automate it, break it down into smaller amounts, you're not even going to feel it. And you're going to feel more motivated throughout the year because as you see that these things are actually piling up in a positive way, you're seeing they're gathering momentum, you're going to feel more positive about your finances in general and feel more motivated. I know that a lot of people, because of inflation, have gotten raises. So that's one of the good things that have come out of these inflationary periods, that some people have gotten significant increases. And as a result, you have an opportunity to then maybe, yes, level up your lifestyle a bit, because I understand things have gone up, but don't use all of the raise that you got. Because think about it, you were living on the money before the raise came. So when the raise comes, maybe you can take just a small amount and contribute it to your 401k at work. So if you got a 5% raise, maybe contribute 2% more to your 401k and leave the other 3% to raise your take-home pay, right? So you're not feeling like you're continuing to sacrifice, but at the same time, you're helping your future self. So you can play games with yourself that way. But the trick is make it simple, automate it, and be more conscious as to where things go. See where you can eliminate, and don't think of a budget as something that is restrictive. Think of it as actually something that is freeing. I'll tell you that I've sat down with my wife and we continue to do, we do money dates. I did an episode on money dates, that you want to do that if you are in a relationship where you get to talk about everything that's going on, races, upcoming bills, upcoming expenses, things that you might be considering as an investment. And it's actually very freeing because then you're on the same page and you don't feel restricted. One of the things when I do budgets for couples, we have a dedicated amount that each person gets as a quote unquote allowance that they both agree on, so that it's the money that they get to use on whatever they want every single week. So let's say for guys, usually that could be like haircuts and so on. And girls might be like more self-care stuff like hair, nails, makeup, and whatever the case might be. But the cool thing about that is that you get to agree on the amount, but you don't necessarily need to agree on what it is spent for. So as long as you stay within the agreed upon amount, there's no reason to have any money fights because you agreed on the amount. And then the person, each individual in the relationship feels like they have enough freedom because now they get to spend money how they want to. within certain parameters that you establish as a couple. And you can do that for yourself. If you're not in a relationship, just say, look, I'm going to put X amount, $50 a paycheck for my holiday shopping. I'm going to do $100 for my vacation. And then I'm going to give myself, $75, $100 a week, whatever it is, based on all your different other goals. And then that's it. You don't have to spend it all. If you do, it's completely fine, because next paycheck, you get to draw the same amount again or the following week, right? If you don't spend it all, then you let it accumulate. And that's another thing that then gets to grow for either miscellaneous expenses, or you get to treat yourself for something, so you can play again that game. If you're giving yourself $100 a week and, 3 weeks out of the month, you decide, I'm only going to spend half of it. Right, you let that additional $50 grow. Right, at the end of the month, you have an additional $150, and then you can go splurge on something, go to a nice dinner, treat yourself to a massage, and not taking anything extra from the budget. So there's plenty of ways. Most of the time when I sit down with people that don't know where their money's going, a lot of the times they feel lack, but it really was a misallocation of existing resources and not keeping track of things. It wasn't necessarily a need to make more money. Obviously, if you have a passion, something you're good at, and you have the time and the capability, absolutely, by all means. If you want to even boost your finances and you're able to get a second job, a side hustle, or sell something online or whatever it is, by all means, right? It cannot hurt you. It could only help you get to your goals faster. Another opportunity right now, I've seen a lot of great offers. If you are in debt, if you have some credit card debt, the credit card companies are being very competitive in terms of what they're offering for 0% APR. And I've seen that a lot. I'm getting a lot of emails. I see it in the mail as well, where there's a lot of opportunities. If you have a balance somewhere, something to consider is if you do a budget properly and you get a credit card that's going to give you, say, 18 months of 0% APR, it may very well make sense to get that card, transfer the balance, and then get on an 18-month plan so that you pay that balance off, and you go hardcore and really focus on paying that debt off before that 0% APR is over, right? Now, if you do that, I do have a couple of episodes where I talk about credit, but briefly I mentioned it here. If you do a balance transfer, and you have a credit card that you've had for a very long time, that credit card is really helping you, because a major part of your credit score is your credit history. So you do not want to close that card. Go ahead and transfer the balance to the 0% APR card, pay it off, but keep your old card, because that history is actually working in your favor. You don't need to use it. Maybe every once in a while, use it for something that you normally would have used anyway, like gas or a subscription of some sort, and then pay it in full. So you don't need to continue to carry a balance on it, but definitely keep it open, because it is super, super helpful. So great opportunities, beginning of the year. Another thing too, if you are going to contribute to an IRA, you have until the tax filing deadline to contribute to the prior year. So you have until the tax filing deadline in April of 2023 to still contribute to your 2022 IRA. So if you contributed some, but you didn't get to max it out, the limits are $6,000 for people under the age of 50 and $7,000 for people 50 and over for the year 2022. So there's another great opportunity there. Just have that conversation with yourself or with your spouse and think about, hey, how much have I contributed to a Roth? Can I max it out before April? Maybe you can use some of your tax refund to use towards your 2022 contribution, and you have until April 2024 to contribute to your IRA for 2023. So plenty of opportunities there. So again, just to wrap it up, don't think of budgets as something that is restrictive. Think of it as an opportunity to have some structure, be able to have some fun items in there, and give yourself actual freedom, because these habits actually do build a muscle, and eventually you're going to feel actually freer, because you'll know exactly where your money's going. And then as life changes, you can make adjustments accordingly. When you get increases, you can increase your lifestyle if you want to, or you can continue to save and invest for your future, or both, right? Because it doesn't have to be either or. So as always, thank you for tuning in. If you have any questions, send me an email, luis@onmywaytowealth.com. Also, check out my website, onmywaytowealth.com. I just did a revamp for the 3-year anniversary of the On My Way to Wealth podcast, and did an entire new website. So check it out. Let me know your thoughts. I hope you like it. I'm pretty happy with it. And thank you for tuning in, and stay tuned for next episodes coming up. I'm going to have continue to bring on guests that have a lot to say for how to just make your finances better in the future. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next episode. Thank you for listening to On My Way to Wealth. If you have any questions, please send me an email at luis@onmywaytowealth.com. The information provided here is for information and education purposes only. The opinions expressed herein are solely those of myself, unless otherwise specifically cited. Material presented is believed to be from reliable sources, and no representations are made by my firm or myself about other parties' information or accuracy or completeness. All information or ideas provided should be discussed in detail with a financial advisor, accountant, or legal counsel prior to implementation. Thank you.